Okay, so I'm recording the session. Just before we start, I'm going to share my screen with you quickly. Before we start, I actually want to just check with you how you are. If you have read, if you've looked at ICE Task 2, and how do you feel about ICE Task 2? Or do you first want to chat about the first ICE Task? Did everybody manage to upload it? To be really honest, I have not had a chance to go and look. It's my plan for the weekend. But was everybody okay with that first ICE task? Let me just go back to the chat. Sorry, I can see. Okay. No, that's great. I'm definitely going to be taking a look at it probably on Thursday. I want to have it done so I can give you some feedback. And also, and I think I mentioned this last week, if for some reason you were not able to do the ICE task or any of the ICE tasks for that matter, there's always grace. Okay, there's always grace. So don't just sickle on your own or whatever. If you haven't managed or you have a problem, please just let me know. I can't help you if I don't know what the situation is. Okay, so then the second ICE task, just to quickly go over it via voice as opposed to just typing it up on VCLearn. The two philosophical approaches that we looked at last week was pragmatic and existentialism. So all I would like you to do is to answer the question, how does technology impact the use of the pragmatic approach within your field of education? And the second question is, what are the challenges of applying the key elements of existentialism in your teaching practice? Now, I do not expect essays here, really. You can give me a paragraph, 4 or 5 sentences. This is not to test your in-depth knowledge of these two philosophical approaches. It's really just to get you thinking and to think about the elements of each of those philosophical kind of concepts. So please no need to write me long essays, half a page, third of a page if you're typing it, obviously. But yeah, 4 or 5 sentences to answer those two questions each. Okay, and then I know the second part might be a bit problematic because you might not actually have the time, never mind access to the movies. You might actually just not have time to watch any of those movies. And that's okay. I get that. I know your time frame is very limited. But then if you don't get to watch any of the movies, then if you could maybe just take two elements of either pragmatism or existentialism, and then just unpack it for me as how you use that within your teaching practice. Okay, so it's a little bit different to the first two questions. The first one is about technology and pragmatism, and the second one is about challenges of existentialism. And then in the second part, if you're not going to watch a movie, then select either pragmatism or existentialism and pick out two elements of either one, whichever one you choose, and then practically explain to me how you apply that element in your lecturing. So is there anything about the second ICE task that you're unsure of? Are you all good? You can still all hear me, right? I'm not talking to myself. Okay, thank goodness. I was honestly beginning to think now I was talking to myself. Okay, so That's ISTAS 2, and it is due end of March, I think. I can't remember, but again, those are guidelines. Okay, those are guidelines. I think I need to actually check what your final due date is to hand in all your ice marks. But I think it's around about June, May, June, somewhere around there. But anyway, so try and get it done for the end of March. It obviously does make it easier for you, but it's not a major train smash if you don't. Right, then tonight we are going to take a look at analytic philosophy. And analytic philosophy differs from the classical philosophies that we have done in the sense that well, first of all, it originated in the UK and in America, whereas the classic philosophies kind of originated in Europe, specifically in Greece. But analytic philosophy is one of the 20th century philosophies, so it's kind of like one of the newer philosophies. And it really has to do with logic. So I think this was in reaction, well, not think, it kind of was in reaction to idealism and all this. They called the classic philosophies fuzzy philosophies, and they said there was no facts, there was no like real data. It was just this thinking about things and meditating on things, and we're looking at the meaning of life, etc., etc. So these three guys, Bertrand Russell, George Moore, and John Austin, they kind of said no. We need to have a look at the facts. We need to logically analyze life. There's all this wishy-washy thinking of things, and having this like yeah, idealistic, fuzzy way of looking at the world. To them, that was not the way to actually philosophize or to think about things. Their psychology is based on language. So for them, it was very important that when you use language to explain something or to break something down into its smaller component, that you would use the right language, the right syntax, the right grammar. To them, the words is what makes the meaning. So solving any problems, the idea would be to break down the complexity of it into smaller parts, smaller things, and then analyze the meaning behind, the syntactical meaning behind those issues, and then put it all together to figure out the bigger picture. So they placed a lot of emphasis on logic. Sorry, I think my connection stopped there for a brief moment. Anyway, so there's no room for vague. Is everyone still there?
Yes, we are still here.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you, Simon. Thanks for letting me know. So it was all about, it's all about the elements of logical analysis, clear language, no vagueness, no ambiguity. If you're going to say something or think of something or analyze something, there cannot be room for a double meaning, for it, to maybe that somebody could maybe interpret it differently. The whole idea is to make everything clearer, to take out the fuzziness and the fluff around things, and to say, well, this is what it is, and this is how it's going to be, and these are the facts. A lot of the lecturing style, if you were to be someone who like the analytic philosophical approach, your classroom would be a lot of debating, a lot of discussion, a lot of unpacking and being very critical about what people are saying, what they are saying. So everything gets analyzed. The analysis of it, and what are the facts? How do the facts implicate one another? So it's not about changing the world. It's just about making the world more understandable. And again, if we were to look at analytic philosophy in lecturing, um, if you were to maybe, let's say, do a lecture on what are the best tax return, or what are the best, I don't know, I know nothing about investments, but let's say investment banking, how would you go about investing to get the best benefit of your money? Let's say that was your lecture. And before you start, or when you start the lecture, you unpack every single term of the topic. So you would define every single thing. So what do we mean by investment? What do we mean by tax? What do we mean by the best return? So all of those concepts or terms or phrases will be unpacked and defined before you actually begin your lecture. And then everybody kind of knows exactly where you're at. And I don't know if any of you were ever involved in debating, but that's very much how debating competitions work. So they give you a topic, and each side has to decide for themselves how they're going to define each term within the topic. I mean, if I gave you a topic, just a random one, let's say children should not be forced to wear school uniform to school, then before we could even start debating that, you'd have to define, what do we mean by school children? Is it only certain age? What age? Uh, School children everywhere? School children in South Africa only? School children in high school? Um, and defining should not wear uniform. What do you mean by uniform? Does it mean that it's, something that they buy, that it all looks the same? Or you understand what I'm saying? So that would be analytic philosophy. Then you would, the new knowledge, and it's something we're going to debate and talk about just now, but constructing of new knowledge would be done by using total logic. If there's no logic, if there are no logical steps to follow, then there can be no new knowledge created, or new knowledge whatever. And also the lecturer would be very aware of different perspectives, and they wouldn't just be brushed over. They would also be basically evaluated and unpacked so that everybody can understand. So okay, let me do this before. Is there anything about analytic philosophy that feels fuzzy to you? Something, it's a very simple philosophy. Simon, did you have your hand up? No? Okay. Did is everybody okay? Is there anybody who would like to ask a question or comment on this philosophy? And just some of the questions that um, I was going to put us all into breakaway groups and discuss this, but let's unpack some of these questions. So some of these are the kind of things that you would kind of work with in an analytic philosophy class. I've just used randomly the whole concept of teaching and learning, but I'm going to ask this question first. Can First of all, what is teaching? Who would like to kind of give me their idea or definition of what is teaching for you? Anybody want to answer? Simon? Transfer of knowledge and skills. Okay, thank you for that, Sipa Kamiso. All right, anybody else have a different answer? So he says it's a transfer of knowledge and skills that is teaching. Anybody else have something different? No. Okay, so then I'm going to ask you the question, if teaching is the transfer of knowledge and skills, can I teach without students? Okay, so you guys say no. So if I were to, for example, something like this, yeah, good question. Who would you be teaching? If, okay, so let me rephrase my question. Could I still be teaching if I were to be doing what I'm doing right now, but none of you are out there? I would just be talking to myself and recording this. Would that still be teaching? Okay, so Simon, you feel that having a lecture recorded without somebody being on the receiving end, that is not teaching. Okay, Sipa Kamiso. Yes, you could learning, anyone would engage with the content at the stage would learn, that would be teaching. Okay? Okay. So Kay says, I think you don't laugh at me. Um, I think you can because I would get the audio like YouTube. Yes. Okay. No, because you're sharing your skills, but we can listen to the recording. Okay. So let's redefine this then. So you can teach without students. Or put it this way. You can teach, but your students do not have to be there with you in real time. Would that be a better way? Okay. So if you, let's say you make a recording of a lecture and you put it out there and nobody ever listens to it, have you taught anything? No. Okay. I agree with that. So teaching, there has to be somebody who is um, putting the information or the knowledge or the skills out there. Yes, you've created learning content. Well done. That was well said. So I've created learning content, but I haven't taught because somebody has to receive that. Yes, 100% agree with you guys. Well done. So then, can I learn without being taught? Okay, Rafilwe says no. Can you unpack that a little bit for us, Rafilwe? Why do you say no? Okay, Kay says you can from life experiences. So are you then saying that life experiences is then not teaching? Yes, we can learn through experience or certain situations. So if I then say, can I learn without teaching? And you say no, but I can learn through life experience. That means you're saying life experiences are not teaching. Or, okay, so cases I can teach us, yes. So then I'm going to ask the question again. Yes. Can I learn without teaching? You can, okay, so case is yes, you can learn without teaching. Why are you making me no, where would you get the knowledge to teach? Okay, so see, this is the whole point of analytic philosophy, is that we we make assumptions without actually even realizing that we're making them. And when we get questioned, then we start thinking, but hang on, does that really make sense? So what you're experiencing now is exactly how analytic philosophy works. So if we are saying teaching is a transfer of knowledge, and we are saying that in order for teaching can only happen if there are recipients. Then I ask the question, can I learn without teaching? So in other words, if we're saying teaching is a transfer of knowledge, can I learn without there being a transfer of knowledge? So then you would have to define, what do we mean by transfer of knowledge? Okay, so yeah, I agree. No. So if we are saying teaching is a transfer of knowledge, I can only learn when there's transfer of knowledge. But then if we look at how is knowledge transferred, that's a completely different conversation, because yes, knowledge is transferred through life experiences, through whatever things you watch or read or see or whatever. So yeah, you got it. It's not that complicated. Okay, that was cool. So now I'm going to ask you, because yes, for the person to learn, there must be knowledge of something. 100% agree with you. And that knowledge comes in the form of teaching, but it's not necessarily from another human being. If that makes sense. Because it can be from just experience, from your senses, collecting the experience. So, okay, so also in analytic philosophy, two types of reasoning is used, and the one is called inductive reasoning or learning, and the other one is deductive. Any idea what they are, what the difference is? Okay, no? Okay, so you basically use inductive and deductive reasoning all the time, but you probably never really had it labeled as such. So inductive reasoning or inductive learning is when you observe general patterns and then you use that information to predict something general. So for example, I observe that um, let me think of something really simple. Okay, so I observed that in Cape Town in the winter, it generally will rain. So that's kind of an observation. There's a lot of rain in winter. So the chances are really high that come next year, winter, it's going to rain. So inductive is like predicting behavior based on observation, like general observation. Deductive reasoning is where you take specific facts. So you know in Cape Town, June is a winter month, so you deduce or you deduct that it's going to rain in June. Does that make sense? So deductive reasoning is more when you mostly when you research, you're using deductive reasoning because you're starting with a hypothesis, and then you're collecting data, and then you're analyzing that data to either prove or disprove your hypothesis, and that is deductive reasoning. So you're collecting all the facts, putting it all together, looking at all the variables, and then you're getting to a conclusion from that. Whereas inductive is more loose, kind of like yeah, the students in my class are very independent. That seems to be the thing amongst Generation Z students. So the chances are very high that if I walk into my new class tomorrow, Generation Z students, they're going to display the same qualities. That's inductive. So I don't know if that helps you to understand the difference. If you think of the classical philosophies of idealism and realism, which one do you think is inductive? No? No idea? So if you think of idealism, if you remember, yes, I can repeat. So classical philosophies that you did either in your very first session, I think I did touch on them when when we had a lesson last week. Classical philosophies of idealism and realism. Which of those two would use inductive reasoning, and which one would use deductive? Yes, okay, you're 100% right. Realism is deductive, so idealism is inductive. Oh, sorry, I want to sneeze. So realism is deductive because it's based on real facts. Yes, refill it. Perfect. Inductive is inductive is idealism because it's very vague. Deductive is realism because they work with the facts and real life experiences, as opposed to idealism that works with thought processing, imagination, how things can be. So, that's just an aside. That's not really, I mean, don't expect you to remember that, but that's just something I was just thinking about, just to help you understand the difference between the two. So remember, idealism in education is emphasize the fact that only ideas are the actual reality. So they focus on your mind, on your brain, on your thinking, generating ideas that generate new ideas, and all of that becomes your knowledge. So yeah, it's more listening to what you're asking, to your questions, and responding with another question to understand more and more how you're thinking, which Realism is totally the opposite. Realism is about real, practical data, things that you can see and hear and touch. Reality is not shaped by our thoughts, but by real things that are happening, real experiences. Okay, so there was another question I wanted to ask. Oh, this is what I wanted to ask. So, can we go around the group and just, for me, it'd be interesting to know, and I think it's going to help me to learn a little bit more about you, but also learn more from each other. If those of you are lecturing or teaching or any kind of role in that kind of space, how do you introduce new knowledge to your students? So let's say tomorrow you've got to start a new topic. How do you go about that? It'll be really interesting to hear from everyone. Does anybody want to speak, or are you all typing? You can speak. Anyone. Lucy, thank you. Please entertain us. How do you introduce new to your class?
Oh, okay. Good evening. Sorry for joining in late. Yeah, I had to go pick up my
No
son.
worries. Oh,
Yes.
shit. Oh, they have children as well. I feel so sorry for you. Shit.
Yeah. I would introduce it. Let's say today we ending the class, and then I'm seeing them tomorrow. We're starting a new topic, and then I'll just mention it as we wrap up the today's class that tomorrow we'll be doing inductive learning. Um, Please go onto Learn. I'll put an announcement there and a video for you to watch before we come to class. Then the video will be accompanied maybe with 3 questions. In your understanding, or in a nutshell, what is inductive learning, or whatever, just 3. And then in the classroom, it's yeah, first thing. So how can you define inductive learning? So what did you pick up from the video? Just start off as a, what can I say, a discussion, or yeah, write on the board
Okay.
like a brainstorm um, type of activity. Then they start speaking, and then that's how you start the topic.
Okay, great. So you almost you almost like they need beforehand, and then you do guided learning. So you test the waters, see how much they understand and where they're at. Okay, cool. That's great. Sipa Kamiso, you ask your students of their understanding of the day's topic. Okay, so you also start off with feeling where they're at, which is a really good place to start with students. Whereas I don't know, in the days when I was school, it was, we were treated as these blank slates, and everything was just told. We were just told this is what you need to know. Nobody really cared what we knew already. So yeah, double Lily, I always want to find out from the students what they know about the topic. Yes, brilliant. And this is so important, because new learning or new knowledge construction cannot happen if they don't have to place it or to hook it onto. So these are all good ways of starting a lecture. Simon says he first encourages students to study the in advance. Okay, so also a bit of flipped classroom there. And then on the day, actually introduce the topic. I first start by asking students to define the key concepts. Nice analytic philosophy there. And then lastly, I would break down the topic into pieces, deliberately ask a question that will cause an art. Oh, I like that. I like that. Because those kind of discussions are the things that get students or people to really think about what they're saying. It's only when you force them into a situation where they've got to either support their argument or, forced to kind of look at somebody else's, then they start to like reflect on what they're saying. So that's very good. Yeah, I like that. Well done. Awesome. Is there anybody else who'd like to share? These are all really good lecturing styles. I know when I have a very similar, oh, you create chaos before explaining. Yes. That I like, yeah, that whole thing of jumbling things up first. It's also just a good way of getting the students to kind of focus and tune in, as opposed to just walking in and jumping straight onto the topic. So I like that as well, creating chaos beforehand. I like to, but I don't always get it right because you have to. Don't you also find it quite exhausting to teach like this, to lecture like this, where you always have to be kind of one step ahead and come up with something creative and new? But I like to, similar to what you guys are saying, create or think of an activity that appears to be completely random, but then as they suddenly the lights go on. Ah, this is why we're doing this. So yeah, it's hard work, keeping these generation focused. The attention span is very short. But anything else you'd like to share? It's also really nice to get. Just trying to think if there's anything more about analytic philosophy. It's not a very, it's not like the classics um, or like pragmatism and existentialism. From next week, we're going to start looking at continental philosophy, which is philosophy that originated in Europe, which is a little bit has a little bit more richness than just pure analytic philosophy. That's really just about the analysis. So yeah, that's going to be a little bit more meatier than this one. Just another question: how do you know when your students have? How do you know when learning has taken place? Engaging. Okay. So Jabulile, in other words, once you have imparted the skills or the knowledge or got them to, grapple with it themselves, you engage with them to determine whether they've actually learned what you wanted them to learn. Okay. I like that. So it's interactive. Do you think we can Busi through assessment and measure? Yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean um, that is definitely the more, what's the word, traditional way. Um, I think, yeah, I mean, I think a combination of that with, yeah, asking questions, assessments, yes, yeah, definitely a combination is good. Do you think you can teach without learning? So teaching is happening, but no learning is happening. Yes, okay, yes, yeah, I think you can. I think definitely. You could be teaching away and no learning could be happening whatsoever. So it's very important to actually assess whether learning has taken place. And it's good to keep your method of assessment varied and different, obviously just to also suit the diversity of different learning and internalizing within your class. Not everybody, not everybody learns and internalizes things the same way. I used to have this saying up in my classroom when I was still teaching, that every child will learn. Every child will learn, just not all on the same day and in the same way. And I think if we as lecturers could also sometimes just keep that in mind, they will all learn, but it's not all going to happen on the same time, on the same day, and in the same way. So yeah, just to keep that in mind. Yeah, I don't have anything else for analytic philosophy. Um, I'm yeah, if there's any questions or comments or suggestions, yes. So factors such as no adequate explaining of concepts, lack of yes. So even so even you you could look at it both ways, Sipakamiso. So your teaching could be really bad, as you've just explained. So then learning is really going to be difficult. Or your teaching could be really good, but your audience, are just not there. There, but not there. So yeah, those are definitely factors that will impact learning. Um, yes, ICE Task 2 is posted. I put it on, let me quickly go and see. I think under more resources. More resources. No, you know what? I'm going to load it up now. Yes. I wanted to upload it last night, and then I thought, no, let me explain it to you first. I'm going to upload it now tonight. So what the second ICE task is, I'm just going to go back here. It's on my first slide. Oh, yeah. It's due the end of March, 31 March. But as I said to, I can't remember who was here in the beginning, but those are just soft deadlines, if you know what I mean. If you can't look, obviously, the more you can manage to meet your deadlines, the better, because it just gets worse. But if you don't make it for the 31st, it's not going to count against you. Um, just kind of just, I don't want to say do it whenever the thing, because we have a deadline to hand in the ICE task marks, and I can't remember when it is. I think it's the end of May or the middle of May. So, but I don't want to mark all of them, in 1 week kind of thing. So it is nice for me if you can stick to these soft deadlines. So 31 March would be great. Give yourself, 2 or 3 days grace. That's fine. I mean, if you go into first, second, 3 April, it's fine. I will still mark it. And also what I said at the beginning tonight, I have not looked at your first ICE task yet. That's one of my to-dos for the weekend. So yeah, I will get that done. But for ICE task 2, there's these two questions. So you're going to use the pragmatic approach and answer the question of how does technology impact using pragmatic in your field of education. So you've got to look at the elements of pragmatism and then how does that fit in with technology. And then the second question is related to existentialism, and what are, if you were to apply existentialism in your practice, what would be the challenges? Now, for both of these questions, I do not expect long essays. Um, Really, 4 or 5 sentences for each question is more than enough. And I will also explain to you, you're going to type it up in a Word document, and then you can just upload that under journal. But I'll explain it all to you in an announcement. And then the second part of this ICE task is I'm going to give you a list of movies for you to watch. One, you only have to watch one. But if you don't have access to these movies, or you just don't have the time, which completely understand. Then if you could just choose either pragmatism or existentialism, and then choose two elements of that particular philosophy and give me a practical example of how you would apply those two elements in your lecturing. So if the one element is, that your, I had a thought now. Let's say, for example, you choose existentialism, and that is all about interpreting lived experiences. Then you could say, in my lecture of investment banking, I get students to actually go and invest money, real money, in some other fund, and then explain to us what happened. That's a really simple example, but that's kind of what I mean. So choose one of those philosophies, select elements, and tell me how you apply that, or how you would apply that in your lecturing. Again, not a long thing. So all in all, this ICE should take, if you type it up, not even a page, maybe a page. So I really don't want you to sit and spend hours and hours on it. I'm going to upload first thing tomorrow morning so that you can then have access to the questions in under announcements, and then I'll tell you where the link is that you can upload it on VCLearn. Okay, does that make sense? Any other question regarding ICE Task 2? You're all good. Okay, I'm then going to allow you to get back to your families and supper and children and school homework. And really, I want you to know that I completely understand where you're at. So I have empathy for you. Please don't hesitate to email me. I think I did put my email address in the previous announcement, but I will do it again. And even if you want to chat, even if you want me to, we can come back to this link, or I can create another link and we can have a chat. Oh, yes, the assignment, Kay. Thank you so much. I knew there was something else I wanted to mention. So tomorrow night, I am having a session with the Varsity College students on exactly what is expected for this assignment. And I'm going to send you the link so that you can join as well. Will that be okay? Or would you prefer me to do it separate with you? It's at the same time as tonight, so from 6 to 7. But if you would prefer me to look, I'm going to be recording it as well. So if you can't attend, you'll definitely have access to the recording. So what I'll do, this is what I'll do. I'm going to, do you have other class? Yeah, I didn't think of that. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I will record it. I will give you access to the recording. And then if after listening, it's from 6 to 7. After listening to the recording, if you still feel you're unsure of anything, then you let me know. And even if I have to, if we create another collab, maybe Thursday evening, um, or Thursday, or a later one on Wednesday. I don't know if you want to do 7 to 8 on Wednesday. Would that work maybe? Should I just put it out there? Yeah, I realize that. Okay, I'll give you the recording. I will give you the recording of tomorrow night. I will send you the link for those of you who can or want to attend. Oh, do you have class at 7 tomorrow? So you want to do tomorrow at 6. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you the link for tomorrow night at 6 if you are able to join in the live session. But whether you do or don't, I will be recording it and I will make that recording available on VCLearn. On RLearn, I apologize. I must VC then on learn for you, and then yes, and then you can go through it, and then you can let me know if there's anything you don't understand. But I go through the assignment in great detail. I unpack just about every single point, every single mark on that rubric, so that you know exactly how to get your marks. So yeah, I think you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Okay, then absolute pleasure, Kay. It was nice chatting kind of with you tonight. There's a few of you, but thank you for joining, those of you who did. And please know I want to help you to get through this module. So don't sit and suffer in silence. Rather, just tell me you're struggling, and then I can see where I can help you. Other than that, you have a super evening. And if I don't see or speak to you tomorrow night, then you have great Easter. Enjoy the catch up 4 days. And yeah, I hope you get to spend some time with your loved ones, but have a good time. And thanks very much for tonight. Have some Easter eggs, lots of Easter eggs, lots of chocolate. Oh, nice. Oh, super Kamiso, that's very funny. You're gonna have to share your popcorn. Pleasure, guys. Have a super evening. We'll chat again.